The Chicago Bears are not ready for prime time. Is the arrow trending down for Bear star quarterback Caleb Williams? We'll give you our answers. We had an upset yesterday in week 2 of the NFL. Not one, but two. We'll give you our thoughts. To baseball, break up the White Sox. Break up the White Sox. They are on a 2-game winning streak. And can we finally throw dirt on the 2024 Chicago Cubs? We'll give you the latest in the WNBA, and we'll take it around college football. Well, it was a good weekend for the state of Illinois, and for Old School TV Monday, we'll salute 3 timeless legends. That and a whole lot more as our Monster Money football edition of Second City Sports starts right now. Welcome to another fun-filled Monday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago, along with Miss Lakina McGee, which is she. I am Sydney Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours surely on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow Lakina McGee on the Twitter, X, again, IG.
Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Excuse me. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at War Media Podcasts. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're ready, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion during our 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio show, you can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments to the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. But you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I've given Lakina full powers to give you full spiel and beer boot.
Toodles.
But before we begin, we must remind you to catch Sports Zone Chicago live in the living color right now on Roku TV. That's right. So celebrate the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. If you already have a Roku television, please tap on that sports folder and download that Sports Zone Chicago app. If you don't have a Roku television, but you have some handheld devices laying around, iPhone, iPad, iTouch, your Chromebook, or your PC, or your Android, just hit up the Google Play Store, download that Roku TV app, and access Sports Zone Chicago through that avenue. So no more excuses. Celebrate the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Live and on demand.
Anytime, anywhere.
And you know we will provide.
And we'll be providing you with the best here on Second City Sports. Now, of course, this is actually Sid's first studs and duds of the season. This time for week 2, we had a couple of upsets. Also, too, we had a good day for a good weekend for local teams in here in Illinois in the college football realm, and we have a new number 1 in college football as well. We'll tell you guys about that. The WNBA, as someone has surpassed for the first time the 1,000 point mark. And we got some new developments in the new sports, Chicago Sports Network that will be going over the airways at the end of this month in a couple of weeks. And the Cubs, you could probably say their playoff chances have gone bye-bye. But first...
Sticks in motion. There's spring 4, and they get to the quarterback. Good pressure with the linebacker. Edmonds coming in. The 3rd and 3, DJ Moore's up at the top of the screen. Caleb looking that way, going that way. Moore's got the first down. DJ Moore takes it right around the 26-yard line. Now they need to get to the 16. Williams throws it in the middle. Contact flag. Contact came too early from Kalen Bullock on the back end.
Has has no choice. If he wants to make a play on that ball, he has to go through the offensive play.
Williams looking to take off. He does. Caleb inside the 5. Puts his shoulder down. Gets towards the 2. 5.5 games and none of them have thrown a touchdown pass. It's a give to the end zone. Herbert. Touchdown. Chicago Bears.
They did this one-man short here. Nate Davis was supposed to be the lead blocker on the play. He gets tripped up by the penetration, can't get out there, and they still score. Nice drive that time. Nice drive by the Bears.
There's the first touchdown.
And of course, those highlights were courtesy of NBC5 Chicago as the Bears were on Sunday Night Football. Last night, they lose to the Texans 19-13. I think those were happy highlights, I guess, but I think the real story here is that once again, that Bears O-line. 7 sacks that gave up to Caleb Williams, and I've seen some of the people from the various folks we know and we've had on the show and one case multiple times in trust. That O-line is going to get Caleb Williams killed, and unfortunately, we're seeing the same old as Nick Friedel, of course. As he always says, we've seen this movie multiple times. This is the same old story. The defense, yes, they gave up some big plays early with C.J. Stroud and Nico Collins, but of course, it's the O-line that's been the issue here. I mean, Caleb Williams did have 2 interceptions, only threw for 174 yards. On the flip side, though, for C.J. Stroud, 260 yards, 1 TD, and of course it was Nico Collins, 135 yards in that lone TD pass for him as well, for the lone TD pass for the Texans. Now I'm going to say this: yes, this breaks a streak of I guess the Bears had lost by double digits in their last 7 Sunday Night Football matchups. Okay. All right, you want to give them a cookie for not getting their butts kicked on national television? Fine, whatever. But this team is not ready, and I said this. I know Sid, you're still at jury duty, but I said this last week. This team could be 0-2 right now. They could be, because if Will Levis, we'll talk about him after the break because he also did something else silly against the Jets. But again, we'll talk about that after the break. But I'm sorry. Yeah, they came back. Yes, it was 1 possession. Blah blah blah. But I'm sorry. They're nowhere near the Detroits and the San Francisco. I know they had a tough San Francisco. We'll talk about them in a second after the break. But I'm sorry, but the Bears got a reality check last night against the Texans.
I'll take the good side first. Bears offensive coordinator Shane Waldron, I like the way he came out with the game plan, tried to emphasize the running game, especially early. But as you mentioned, as we talked about during the preseason, the offensive line, especially the left side of the offensive line, is going to get Caleb Williams killed, and they did not do the job last night. Darnell Wright, the first draft pick, I believe, in the Ryan Poles era, I still believe he's the pillar, one of the big pillars for the offensive line in their foundation going forward. But he did not have a great game last night. He had 3 penalties, and that was all of them with false starts. That's inexcusable. I know DeAndre Swift had 14 carries for 18 yards. Do I like those numbers on his stat sheet? No, but it looks like he tried to do what he could. But as I mentioned, you got to have a solid offensive line in front of you, and he didn't have that last night. He was actually better in the passing game. So I was proud of him for that. Now, Caleb did look good last night, Lakina, but there's only so much he could do. And I know he went back to the bad habits to try to get out of a couple of sacks, including that one, I believe. I forgot who. I think it was Will Anderson. I'm not sure. You correct me if I'm wrong, but he got part of his jersey torn off before he got sacked. No, I think it was the interception. It was.
That was Anderson. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Before you had the interception, he turned him loose and he threw the interception. As we said before, we'll say it again. Caleb Williams will grow from this. I heard his post-game presser last night. It seems like he's a very humble young man. He understands what's going on. Yes, he's a very confident man, but he's not delusional, unlike some players. So I do have faith that Caleb Williams will improve from this. And remember, folks, he's a rookie quarterback. I know he has all this weapons stacked around him, but it's still going to take him some time. Now I know that Keenan Allen didn't play last night. I know Velus Joseph was inactive, thank goodness. But the Bears still had a chance to win that game. The only reason why they had a chance to win the game was because of their defense. And I know the defense didn't look stellar compared to Week 1, but they did give the Bears chance to win that game, even after the two Caleb Williams interceptions, even after the lack of consistency in the running game. They still had a chance to win the game. That's all you asked for. But like you said, they're just not ready for prime time yet.
Well, and now I know it was Second City Sports on Chicago, Keenan McGee, Cindy Brown with you now. Shout out to Eli Ong, who's the digital sports writer over at WGN. Of course, we've had all the folks, the TV people there, all four of them. They were all. I'm sure they all watched the game, but he put up the stat up, and I think this needs to be noted for the first two games for the Bears offense: 354 total yards, 198 net passing yards, 156 rushing yards, 3.48 yards per carry. 1 TD, 26 first downs, 8 for 30 on third downs, 9 sacks allowed, including 7 last night, 15 QB hits allowed, and 45 QB pressures allowed. Yeah, that's not no. That's not going to do it for you. And Daniel Hunter also had one of those sacks, and of course we know he loves playing the Bears because he played for the Vikings for many years. He and Will Anderson Jr. combined for 17 of those pressures last night, and they had 36 pressures overall. And I could counter that by saying that the only reason why the Bears was even in it is because of penalties by the Texans. There was a penalty that that could have there was a score that was called back because of a holding call. I think that was like early on in I think it was like early on in the third quarter because everyone went over. And there was actually I think it was Diggs who thought he had the first down. That could have ended it, iced it. It was called back because of a hands to the face. They had 12 penalties in total. And we had our friend Will Kunkel from Fox 26 who previewed the game with us for a little bit on Friday, and he said that was really the one thing that was kind of give them a weakness is that the penalties. If they want to take that next step, they got to clean those penalties up. That's another reason why, and I think that was the main reason why the Bears were even in this last night. This should have been a blowout, hook, line, and sinker. And I know Tyree Stevenson. Yeah, he got given up a little bit. If Nico Collins made him look small. Jalen Johnson, I think I heard his name twice. And Keenan Allen, yeah, I know Chris Collins would say, oh, Keenan Allen, it would have made a difference because that O line is terrible. And you would think since Brian Poles is a former O lineman, same thing with assistant GM Ian Cunningham, you would think that would be sort of the thing. But Nate Davis, I know there's some injuries and have been moving around and stuff like that. But the Bears aren't ready. It's just that simple. Point blank. Period.
Getting back to the defensive game plan we talked about last Friday, looking especially with our guests, I told you after Will Kunkel got off the line with us that I was looking forward to that Jalen Johnson Stephon Diggs matchup. We really didn't get to see that. Tyreek Stevenson was on Stephon Diggs, and shout out to head coach of the Houston Texans, D'Amico Ryan's former player, by the way, who saw that weakness in the Bears secondary, and they took advantage of Mr. Stevenson all night. Nico Collins had a great game. He had over 159 yards and a touchdown. I know Stephon Diggs had some key catches in there as well. I know Tank Dell was not a factor last night, but whoever Tyreek Stevenson was matched up on, they picked on him, and it worked to perfection. Like you said, Jalen Johnson, I guess you can look. I'll look at it this way: it's a sign of respect because he's one of the best top 5 defensive backs in the league. But Tyreek Stevenson, who I still have high hopes for, he did not have a good game last night. You mentioned he poked the bear at Nico Collins late in that first half. I know he drew a flag, but you got to get back and focus in on your game, young man. And I do have confidence that he will do that. You mentioned the Bears got to clean up the penalties too, especially with these false starts. That was just inexcusable last night. Now, I did like the way that the Bears did pressure C.J. Stroud. They did get 3 sacks on him, which is very impressive. But on the flip side, the offensive line, they gave up 7 sacks. As we told you last Friday on the show, the Houston Texans will bring it, and they did. They brought it hot and heavy last night. And I'll leave you with this before we take our break. When Caleb Williams was not pressured, he was doing just fine. When he was blitzed, he only completed 2 passes. What does that tell you?
Well, and I think on the flip side, though, for the Bears, I mean, they did blitz C.J. Stroud a lot, but it's one of those things where you live by the blitz and die by the blitz. So we'll see what happens because, of course, we'll see what happens. The Bears are 1-1. They will play next week in Indianapolis against the Colts. We'll talk about that Colts Packers game coming up. I actually watched a little bit of that game too, but there was other games on the docket here. Kind of gave us a chance to kind of like get away from the Bears for the first second there in the day games. But yeah, some interesting a couple of surprises, some interesting results, I guess some interesting calls, I guess, that flipped over the game. And of course, we got our studs and duds, Sid's first studs and duds of 2024 season coming up next. Lakita McGee, City Brown, Second City Sports on Sports in Chicago. Our NFL Power Hour continues right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
And I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on this fun-filled edition for your Monday afternoon. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow Lakita McGee on the Twitter, X, and King's going to get the IG.
We have 85 minutes left or so in this extravaganza. We call it Sports Talk Radio Show. We're about to go around the rest of the NFL for week number 2. If you have any questions or comments for us, if you have any leftover thoughts from last night's 19-13 loss for the Chicago Bears to the Houston Texans, you can always hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments to the comment section. Lakino, get them up on the screen for you.
All right, Sid. Let's go to one of the bigger surprises from the noon slate of games here, week 2 in NFL. The Raiders come back and beat the Ravens 26-23 in Baltimore. Gardner Minshew helped rally um, the Raiders, and they had three fourth quarter scoring drives, including a couple of field goals and a TD that kind of led the way there. And on the flip side for Baltimore, I don't know what the heck's going on down over there, but 247 yards, a TD, and an interception for Mr. Lamar Jackson. Derrick Henry, 84 rushing yards for him as well. Devontae Adams, 110 yards and a TD catch for them, and of course, Zay Flowers had a TD catch as well. I don't know what's going on over there in Baltimore. But they've had 10 days to after that Chiefs loss. I don't know. They should have blown out the Raiders. There's no excuse. Good for Antonio Pierce and the rest of that group, but it just feels like something's amiss over there in Baltimore, and I don't like it.
Shout out to Marvin Lewis. He's the associate head coach for the Raiders, helping out Antonio Pierce. Of course, he was a former Bengals coach for many years. I'm with you, Lakina, for Baltimore. I don't know about you, but at times you think that they'll put their foot on the pedal and take care of business offensively. But watching some of that game via the red zone yesterday, you thought maybe I don't know about you, but it's like watching paint dry, or as I'll call it, watching someone trying to pull teeth and watching how the Ravens offense operates. Because at times you see Lamar Jackson do his thing. I know he tried to scramble a few times yesterday. I thought it was a little bit too late for him to do that, but during the early portion of the game, you thought they had opportunities to put that game away. They just do it's like watching their offense is like watching someone try to pull teeth. But give the credit to the Raiders. And when you have young teams like that you let them hang around, this is what happens. And Justin Tucker, one of the best accurate kickers of all time, he missed another 50-plus yarder in the field goal department yesterday. I'm not saying he should retire and all that stuff. He still has a strong leg, but I'm kind of worried about him right now. And who would have thought that the Raiders will start the season 0-2? They got a tough game on the road next week at Dallas.
Yeah, Todd Monken, who's the new OC there, and I know he's a Wheaton North kid. I know our buddy Herb Lawrence. I know he went to school there too. But this isn't high school football, folks. I mean, you can't really. You've got the weapons. You've got Derrick Henry. You need to use him more. You need to. You've got Lamar Jackson. I mean, something needs to be done over there at Baltimore, because this season you don't want this season to get away from you real quick. So you're 0-2. You still got a lot. There's still some time left to make it right, but they need to make it right and make it right, because there are already people there are asking for John Harbaugh's head over there, which I think is kind of silly. I just think that the coordinators, I think that's really going to be like the key here. And both these new coordinators for Baltimore need to step it up, because if not, you don't want the season to get away from the Ravens really quick. But we'll see what happens there now. Going down to Jacksonville, the Browns beat the Jags 18-13, and of course, Deshaun Watson, again, not a good showing by him, 186 passing yards. Jerome Ford, 64 rushing yards. Trevor Lawrence, 220 yards, I should say. But it was really the defense was a story for the Browns. They sacked Lawrence 4 times, and they just couldn't get it going on offense. And ATN did have a rushing TD, but it wasn't enough, and they just really couldn't get it going.
Just like I said about Baltimore a moment ago, and I'll say the same thing about Jacksonville. Their offense is putrid right now. It's like pulling teeth, and they really couldn't get anything going. I know news was out over the last few days that Myles Garrett, the star defensive line end, rather for the Browns, wasn't supposed to play. He played yesterday. He got one of the game clinching sack yesterday, and I know it was a threat of thunderstorms down there yesterday. The clouds did move in throughout portions of the game, but I wasn't really impressed by either of these teams, to be honest with you with Lakina. I know Deshaun Watson had that rush TD, but he still doesn't look good. And I know they brought in Jameis Winston, I believe, to one of those yardage situations he did convert, but everything's not right in the world out there in Cleveland Browns land. But I think it's obviously it's worse in Jacksonville to start over until you blow a 17-point lead on opening day last week, and you had a showing like that yesterday in your home debut. I heard a few boo birds down there in Jacksonville, so uh,
Hmm.
looking good for Jacksonville. They got to get it together and get it together quick.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens down there in Jacksonville. Now, off to Nashville as the Jets. I don't, not the most entertaining game, I will say, 24-17, but he got to win it down there in Tennessee. Aaron Rodgers, still has a little bit left in the tank. Maybe, like I said, definitely not, MVP quality, but threw 176 yards and 2 TDs, no interceptions. I think that's a good thing. Brees Hall had 62 rushing yards. On the flip side for the Titans, Will Levis, 1 TD and an interception, was sacked 4 times. And there was an interception. If you saw this game, I had it in the background. Well, if you saw Brian Callahan's lips when Levis threw that interception, it kind of says it all. And again, people don't want to admit this, but if it wasn't for Levis giving that game to the Bears would be 0-2 right now. So this, so I'm kind of at a loss for words. I don't know if Brian's dad taught him that. Because I seen him do it a couple of times when he was head coach years ago. But it just But the Jets, they looked okay. I mean, that defense still very questionable. I know they've got Jermaine Johnson, one of their top guys. He's done for a year with a torn Achilles. They need to make things work out with Hassan Reddick because they need help. They need to be so.
Yeah, the Jets got away with one yesterday. You mentioned Aaron Rodgers. As long as you don't put the game on his shoulders, especially at his advanced age, you'll be okay. And then you mentioned Brees Hall had a decent game yesterday. On the flip side for Tennessee, Tony Pollard, 62 rushing yards off for 17 carries. Calvin really had a touchdown off of 4 catches and 77 receiving yards. Plays like that, you mentioned going back to Will Levis last week in Chicago with Tyreek Stevenson and yesterday. Those kind of plays will get you put on the bench. And if I'm the new head coach, Brian Callahan, as you mentioned, if he does that again, you'll be benched. I don't care who's sitting behind him.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens down there in Nashville, but should be interesting. Now, probably up a little bit, about like 10 hours northwest of us. Probably one of the bigger surprises was the Vikings. The Vikings 23-17 over the 49ers. And yeah, we all misjudged this one. A lot of us did. Sam Darnold threw for 268 yards and 2 TDs, including an interception. But look, Fred Warner, Fred Warner is one of the best, defensive players in the league. So, you kind of, let him slide for that. Brock Purdy on the flip side, 319 yards, a TD, and an interception. But it was really the defense for Minnesota that was a big story. 6 sacks for the Vikings D. And it's interesting because, of course, Justin Jefferson, of course, he had to pull out because of a contusion, knee bruise. He won't miss any time, so that's good news if you're a Vikings fan. That monster 97-yard TD catch from Darnold, that was probably one of the bigger plays of the day. And Deebo Samuel had 110 yards, I should say, for receiving yards for the 49ers. But you saw the 49ers, they looked flat. Yeah, I can say that it was from a short week. They had to travel cross country, played a new game. I don't want to make excuses for them, but you can tell they really miss CMC.
Yes, they really do miss Christian McCaffrey. He is going to be out for a few more weeks. You mentioned his replacement, Jordan Mason, 20 carries for 100 yards in the score. Kevin Harlan agree with you, Lakino, on that 97-yard touchdown reception. He went crazy on that CBS mic. Of course, overall, Jefferson had 4 catches for 133 yards in that touchdown. Give credit to Minnesota. I know they have a new running back in Aaron Jones, the former Green Bay Packer. He's still trying to get his feet underneath him. So we talked about the Vikings defense last year, Lakina, being ranked, I believe, in the top half in the National Football League. They played lights out yesterday. I'm not saying they're going to the playoffs or anything like that, but they catch some of these teams at the right time. The Giants stink. And, of course, the 49ers, you mentioned, they caught them off for short weeks. So congratulations to the Purple Gang up there in Minneapolis. They're 2-0 right now.
If you saw a little clip of Brock Purdy with Brian Flores, of course, who's now the new DC down there and up there in Minnesota, he said, "Hey, look, they blitzed him like crazy." So yeah, and yeah, he got sacked 6 times. So yeah, I mean, look, Minnesota is probably one of those sleeper type teams. So I'm not saying they're going to win the division, but they could definitely be right there for a wild card spot. So we'll see what happens there. Now let's go down to the Carolinas. 26-3, the Chargers over the Panthers. The first time since I believe 2018 is when the Chargers have started 2-0, and Justin Herbert looked really good. Look, he looked really good. 130 yards, 2 TDs, and an interception. On the flip side, Bryce Young, only 84 yards and an interception. Chuba Hubbard was one of a few bright spots, but J.K. Dobbins, I said this when Dobbins, signed with the Chargers, he could definitely be that answer on the rushing side for the Chargers. At least so far, they've done just that. And the defense, I mean, granted, it's the Panthers, but even still, I mean, there was no letdown. If you saw how excited, Jim Harbaugh was after the game, it was just you miss being down in NFL silence, but a really great showing by the Chargers. Again, same thing here. I'm not going to say they're going to win the AFC West, but the Chargers look really good these first couple of weeks, I should say.
Yeah, they're playing Jim Harbaugh style football, aka khaki pants, and they did what they had to do against a much lesser opponent yesterday. The Carolina Panthers, they're going to be the worst team in football again, and there's problems all around. We'll leave it at that. Well, on the flip side for the Chargers, you mentioned Justin Herbert, 2 TD passes and an interception. I know he left the game to go to the blue tent, and hopefully he's okay. He's already dealing with a plantar fasciitis in his right foot from the preseason, so hopefully he can get healthy soon. You mentioned J.K. Dobbins, 131 rushing yards and a touchdown. Quentin Johnson was expected to step up as one of Justin Herbert's big targets. He had 5 receptions for 51 yards and 2 scores.
Yeah, really, they looked really good, like you said, and they're actually, it's their credit, they're staying out east because they play Pittsburgh next week. So, I think Harbaugh told his guys, hey, look, let's pack up for 2 weeks because we're not coming back. So around and then come right back. So yeah, very smart on his part. Now going to New England, just outside Boston, the Seahawks in an overtime thriller. Who thought this would be the most one of the more thrilling games in overtime of all the noon games? 23-20 over the Patriots. Jake Myers' 31-yarder in overtime sealed the win there for the Seahawks, and they're now 2-0. And it's interesting because I don't think this. We all picked Seattle, but we didn't think how they were going to win it. But it wasn't actually too bad. I mean, Geno Smith threw for 327 yards in the TD. And it was DK Metcalf, of course, had a monster TD catch, 126 receiving yards. Well, as you can see, said that he has him on his fantasy team. Jackson had 117 yards.
Hell yes.
That one added it for that. Jacoby Brissett, 149 yards and a TD pass. Just wasn't, they couldn't really get it going on offense. It was kind of back and forth for a lot of the game, and to their credit, though. But yeah, it was Seahawks were the last ones left standing.
Yeah, Geno Smith had a bounce back game, as you mentioned, over 327 yards passing. DK Metcalf did his thing. Tyler Lockett had a couple of big catches in there as well, especially in that overtime. But I think on the flip side for New England, I think they found a new stars with their new running back, Antonio Gibson, the former Washington Commander player. He had 96 rushing yards off of 11 carries. So, but as we talked about with New England, they still in rebuilding phase. This is the first year under new head coach Gerard Mayo. They did fight hard yesterday. You could make a case that they should have won the game in regulation there, but Seattle did what they had to do in the late stages of overtime. They earned their tough early game road victory.
Yeah, Mike McDowell now 2-0 as head coach of the Seahawks. So a nice start for him his first year as an NFL coach. Now, probably one of the bigger surprises, probably the biggest surprise, I would say, 44-19, the Saints over the Cowboys. The Saints have already scored 91 points in the first 2 games. Derek Carr, 2 TD passes, 243 yards. If you have Alvin Kamara, thank God I wasn't facing somebody that had him on his for fantasy. 115 yards and 3 TDs. And Rashid Shaheed, I should say, had 96 rushing yards and the receiver, as you say, a TD. And of course, Kamara had an extra receiving TD catch as well. On the flip side, though, for Dallas, Dak Prescott, 2 interceptions, 293 yards in the TD. He was sacked 3 times. I don't know. I don't want to say that the Saints are really good and the Cowboys are bad. It's just how weird things happen. But yeah, this is probably one of the more surprising games yesterday.
Yeah, I heard someone say this last night, and I'll repeat it here. The Saints' performance yesterday reminded me of the Packers. The Cowboys lost to the Packers in last year's playoffs. So the only thing that the Saints did was the Saints spread it out their Cowboys defense. Rashid Shaheed, their stud wide receiver, talking about for the Saints, he had a big game yesterday. Or as you mentioned, Alvin Kamara's a big time performance with 4 touchdowns. Here's the thing for Dallas. They still, I think Tom Brady pointed out on the broadcast yesterday. The Cowboys are still trying to find out who's going to run the ball for them full time. I know they got their running back Vaughn. I think he's in the second year out of Kansas State. And I know they brought back Ezekiel Elliott. He's going to be your third down back. But Dallas still has to find that guy who's going to run the ball for them consistently. It wasn't really Dak's fault yesterday. I know he had that turnover, but I know CD Lamb had that one long reception for a touchdown to end that first half. But that defense got to get it together, and you got to put pressure on Micah Parsons. It starts with him. And if they can't get it together, then and find a consistent running back, there's going to be problems in Big D.
Yeah, Deuce Vaughn, he only had 11 rushing yards. Rico Dowdle, I should say, had 30 rushing yards to lead the way for there. So, definitely got to figure things out over there in Big D to see like who's going to be kind of like the king of the rushing there. But this is the Second City Sports on Sports Social. Lakeith McGee, Steve Brown with you as we recap the Week 2 action of the NFL, and another thriller that I can kind of say that. Again, I actually had this game in the background. The Commanders beat the Giants 21-18. Jaden Daniels, we got his first win. Austin Seibert had 7 field goals, including that game winner there. So shout out to him. He's one of go ahead and say he's one of my studs for the week. But yeah, not the prettiest game. 226 yards for Daniels. Daniel Jones, 2 TDs, but yeah, it just wasn't enough. And you probably say the Giants could have won this game, but kudos to the Commanders for hanging in there and getting the win.
Excuse my French, but the New York Giants are a shithole of a football team, and I did say on Friday they would play better. They actually did yesterday, but as you mentioned, they had a couple of chances to put that game away, or perhaps take the lead. They didn't do it, despite the best effort from rookie wide receiver Malik Neighbors from the New York Giants. He had 10 catches for 127 yards in the score. But Brian Robinson Jr. was the man with the plan for the Washington Commanders, their star running back, 17 carries for 133 yards. And I don't know if you caught this looking after the game yesterday. Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors had a jersey swap because both those guys attended LSU. And they played on the same team for the last couple of years. I thought that was a cool moment yesterday following the game with that jersey swap.
Yeah, that was really cool. Of course, they're still pretty tight. So yeah, I think that was a really cool moment there between the two of them. And of course, Daniels got the best of Neighbors there. Neighbors did actually got his first TD catch. So congrats to him. Now going off to Detroit and the Motor City now. We said this, when we did our picks that if Tampa Bay won, and they did, it won 2016 over the Lions, it wouldn't be a big shocker. But yeah, I mean, that's exactly what happened. And Baker Mayfield ran for a TD and had a TD pass. Defense did just enough to keep the Lions at bay. And there was a big gap, clockwise for the Lions, unfortunately. And of course, Dan Campbell made a point of emphasis to that, at the end. But a nice one for the Bucs that can go a long way.
Yeah, I actually watched some of this game yesterday via this computer screen live, and that Tampa Bay defense, they were all over the Detroit Lions yesterday. They picked up Jared Goff twice. They were all over the football. Their tackling was excellent. And besides David Montgomery's third quarter touchdown, I should say, the Lions' running game was pretty much non-existent. I know Jahmyr Gibbs had 84 yards rushing at the end of the day, but the Lions really couldn't get anything going offensively until the second half. I know Amon St. Brown had 119 receiving yards, but Jameson Williams, I think he's the number one target for the Detroit Lions. He had a good game yesterday, but the Tampa Bay defense was more the aggressor. And Baker Mayfield, as we talked about last year, Lakina, at least through the first 2 games of this year, he's proven that last year was not a fluke.
No, he's not, and he's worthy of that big contract that he got in the offseason. So yeah, so far so good for the Bucs. 2-0 for them. And I hate this. This is going all the way back to the beginning here. But the last of the noon games, the Packers hang on to beat the Colts 16-10, and Malik Willis, who, look, the only thing he has to do
What
is
you talking
kind of
about, Willis?
Yeah, right. I mean, look, the only thing he has to do is kind of just hold it down for the next few weeks until Jordan Love's able to come back. 122 yards and a TD. Again, not flashy, but again, Josh Jacobs, 151 rushing yards. It was really the defense for the Packers that kind of got the game going there. And and the Colts next opponent, 204 yards, 3 interceptions for Anthony Richardson. So it was really the defense that kind of got it all going there. But the Packers, look, they did what they had to do.
Yeah, I think yours surely told you on Friday that I had some weird vibes about this game. Jordan Love's out. Indianapolis should roll all over them. I was watching ESPN NFL Countdown yesterday. All the experts picked the Colts. I said, if y'all listen to Second City Sports last Friday, I told you how Green Bay was going to win this game. They were going to play good defense and they were going to run the ball. And as you mentioned, they did both of that yesterday. And here's the thing, Lakina. Your backup quarterback is not supposed to be the star. He's supposed to put the car in cruise control. Don't strip the gears. Don't do anything too fancy. Just follow the game plan, and you'll come out with success. And that's what the Packers did yesterday.
Yeah, not too flashy. Look, just don't make any mistakes, and that's exactly what Willis did, and he was able to kind of get it going. So again, a couple more weeks. The Packers are 1-1, and should be interesting as they go through these next couple of weeks without Jordan Love. Now let's go to real quick. Let's go to these 3:00 games. Starting with probably one of the better games. Shout out to our buddy Spiro Diaz, who had the call of this game between Pittsburgh and Denver, 13-6. Probably it wasn't. I mean, shout out to him and Adam Marshall because they made the goal because this game was not very good. Yeah, Justin Fields, had a TD pass, 117 yards. On the flip side, though, for Mr. Bo Nix, he's having a real rookie growing pains. 2 interceptions, was sacked twice, and I mean, don't look now, but yeah, the Steelers are 2-0. I don't think in the AFC North at the top, and I don't think anybody had that this early in the season.
Yeah, Denver's going through growing pains with their rookie quarterback, as you mentioned. On the flip side for Pittsburgh, their offense is just putrid. I know Najee Harris had 17 carries for 69 yards, but Mike Tomlin, you really have much deeper problems than just finding a quarterback. That offense has been terrible. You had like 3 quarterbacks last year, and your offense looked better than this crap.
Yeah, they really did. So we'll see what happens with that. Now going just outside Phoenix, Arizona, the Cardinals. I don't think anybody, maybe the score, I guess, but yeah, 41-10 over the Rams. Kyler Murray looking really good after coming back from that knee injury. 3 TDs. 3D passes for 266 yards. James Conner had a rushing touchdown and 122 yards. Marvin Harrison Jr. had 130 yards and 2 TDs. We didn't really hear too much of him in the first game against Buffalo. You probably said could have won that game against Buffalo, but yeah, I mean, he became the first rookie with at least 4 catches and 2 TDs in the first quarter of a game since, of course, his dad did it back in '96. So nice showing for the Cardinals.
Yeah, shout out to Marvin Harrison Jr. with that first touchdown catch, keeping both feet in balance and had control of the football with one hand. That was just an awesome catch. I think we all had the Rams winning this game, if I'm not mistaken. I'll speak for myself. I had the Rams winning this game, but the Rams got problems offensively with their offensive line. They really could get it going in the running game. I know I'll remind all of you as I remind myself, but the first 2 weeks of any NFL season, is overreaction week, and I have to keep reminding myself of this as I remind all of you. But the Cardinals, even though I did pick them to beat Buffalo last week, they should be 2-0 right now. I'm not saying they're going to the Super Bowl. I'm not saying they're even going to win the NFC West. But if they keep playing like this, they could cause a few problems for a few teams on their schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see what happens with that. Going into probably one of the game of the week here. The Chiefs edge out the Bengals 26-25. There was a call, a questionable PI call, and this and that, and I guess Jamar Chase said that the ref, I guess they called the flag on him for a sportsmanlike conduct that kept that kill could have been the game saving drive for the game sealing drive, I should say, for the Bengals and this and that. So just a lot of stuff, and let's just say this reiterates why a lot of people hate the Chiefs. So 26-25. I guess there's really nothing more you can say about this game.
Yeah, the Bengals had the chance to win this game. I think, in my opinion, I thought they outplayed the Chiefs for the majority of the game. But as you mentioned, with the teams like the Chiefs, with that veteran experience, knowing what to do in crucial situations, that's what happened yesterday. Isaiah Pacheco, woohoo, for my fantasy team. He had 19 carries for 90 yards. So I know he left the game with an injury. Mike Gesicki for Cincinnati, 7 catches for 91 yards, including one long reception coming out there on the territory early in the game. Joe Burrow, 258 yards for 2 touchdowns. I know the Bengals are a trendy team to start off slow, and they usually pick it up at the end, but it's going to become a problem if they continue to slide down like this. And I know the last couple of times they played Kansas City, they lost in heartbreaking fashion, but they got to tighten up a couple of things. They want to get back to where they were 3 years ago, reaching the Super Bowl.
Well, it looks like Pacheco's going to be gone for a while because he fractured his fibia. So you may have to make your adjustments to your fantasy team.
I will. And historically, you should have problems with running backs outside of last year with running backs. So,
yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, Chiefs, you got another win there now. Real quick, I know we're up against it. Yeah, real quick, your studs and duds.
What my first stud would be Brian Robinson Jr. for the Washington Commanders. He had a nice game, as I just mentioned, 17 carries, 133 yards as the Commanders beat the Giants 21-18. Of course, Sunday Night Football, Nico Collins for the Houston Texans, 8 catches, 135 yards in the score as the Texans beat the Bears 19-13. And my third stud will be Justin Jefferson of the Minnesota Vikings, 4 catches, 133 yards and a touchdown as the Vikings beat the 49ers for the second year in a row in Minneapolis, 23-17.
My studs, real quick. Of course, I had Alston Cypher. That's one of my studs. Sam Darnold, one of my studs. My other studs, two passing TDs. And also, too, yes, I know he had that interception, but look, it's Fred Warner. So, like I said, I'll let him slide with that. And I'll say Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh probably one of the bigger surprises. Again, I don't know if they can keep it up. I don't think they can because they really need Russell Wilson back. But, yeah, I mean, I know a lot of some Bears fans are already calling for, Justin Fields with the remorse. So that's a different discussion for another time. But, yeah, those are my 3 studs. Real quick, my 3 duds, the Bears. Sorry, you're not ready for the prime time. Sorry, you're not. Baltimore, what the heck's going on down there in Baltimore? Y'all better get it together real quick. And my other duds, the Panthers. Like, there's really, yeah, and they just made a change at QB. They're going to switch over to Andy Dalton. I mean, I don't know if that's going to make a big difference, but they have made the change. So those are my 3 duds.
My 3 duds are as follows: Will Levis of the Tennessee Titans, enough said. The Dallas Cowboys defense, and the crappy offense of the New York Football Giants.
Yeah. So those are your studs and duds for week 2 of the NFL. Real quick, Monday Night Football, of course, there is going to be a Manning cast, so it'll be on ESPN, ESPN2, and of course ESPN Plus as well. You got the Battle of the Birds, you got the Dirty Birds and the Falcons, and you got the Eagles, the Soaring Eagles. What do you think are the keys to this game?
For the Eagles, Jalen Hurts must play much. He must play better. I know he had 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions in the win over the Packers last Friday in Brazil. Hurts got to cut down on the turnovers. And let's see what Saquon Barkley can do. I know he had 2 rushing touchdowns in his debut last week, as I mentioned, with the victory over the Packers in Brazil. They're going to miss A.J. Brown tonight with that hamstring injury. So this is for time for Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert, their stud tight end, to step up. And let's see if Philadelphia can have that balanced attack of the running game and Jalen Hurts being much smarter with the football. That's what I'm looking for with my keys for Philadelphia tonight. On the flip, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you finish up.
Okay, and on the flip side for Atlanta, you got to play almost damn near perfect football, i.e. Kirk Cousins. Stop turning the ball over, get Bijan Robinson involved, and if you're that Falcons defense, you got to just go hunt after Jalen Hurts.
It'll be interesting to see who's going to be the step up for the Eagles, especially now. Of course, like I said, AJ Brown is going to be out for this game, so it's going to be interesting what happens then. Now, I'm wondering about Kirk Cousins. Is he even better? I would be surprised if he's not. If he's not, shows any signs. Maybe we'll see a Michael Penix Jr. out there in Philadelphia tonight. We'll see, but we'll see. But yeah, I think the Falcons defense needs to kind of try to keep their team in it. That might be their best chance for them to win the game. So we'll see what happens with that. Now, of course, what do you think about Tom Brady yesterday? I think he sounded a lot better than he did last week.
I thought so too. At least the parts that I saw on NFL Red Zone, he seemed more relaxed. And as I said last week, it's going to take him time to get used to his new role as being a color commentator. You're trying to be fair on both sides. You got to call the plays how you see it, how, when, what, and why a particular play happens. So as I said before, it's going to take some time, but especially in that first half, like I said, I tuned out of it in that second half. The game was a blowout, but in that first half, he seemed to be more engaged in the game and starting to feel more comfortable in his own skin in that booth.
Yeah, I think the interview after the game with the LFG player of the game, of course, Alvin Kamara got the honors there, and of course you can tell that he's really good at that. He has that nice little back and forth between the players and a nice little rapport, and you can tell that the players are absorbing it, so that really helps there. So yeah, but he has another Cowboys game next week, so good grief.
Against the Baltimore Ravens. Real quickly, Keenan, we have breaking news from the world of the NFL. We talked about the Carolina Panthers early in this segment. They're going to bench second-year QB Bryce Young in exchange in his place will be Andy Dalton going forward. I don't know if that's going to do anything, but the Carolina decided to make that move. You mentioned about the Michael Penix Jr. just a moment ago. Carolina has pulled the plug on Bryce Young for the time being.
To be continued, I guess. Like I said, I don't know if it's going to make a big difference, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 coming up here on Second City Sports on Chicago. We go to the Diamond as the Cubs playoff chances. Adios. Yep, the old taps music there. And while the White Sox still have a shot to avoid futility. Yay! And things get interesting in some of the divisional races as well, and the wild card too. So, and of course, we got college football, WNBA, and so much more on Old School TV Monday. All that coming up next. Keenan McGee, City Brown, Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago. Go to the Diamond. Coming up right after this.
No, I don't know though. I'm scared.
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Move it!
Many will hear the calling,
few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of this fun-filled Monday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. If you're watching us live on YouTube, we both back in full strength and full health. You can see and hear us both. Along with Miss Kim again, which is she. I ain't Cindy Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
Yeah, apologies for that. I don't know what the heck happened, but both our cameras kind of went out. But shout out to one of my buddies for telling us that, like, hey, I see one or both of y'all. I don't see both of y'all. So shout out to them. But you follow my kid McGee on the Twitter, X, Akios Kirk in the IG.
We have less than this is hour number 2. We have less than 50 minutes, if my math is correct, 47 to be exact, minutes left of this extravaganza we call it Sports Talk Radio Show. As we get into the world of the diamonds in baseball, of course, with Cubs and Sox as well. You want to chime in during this segment, you can do so by hitting us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments to the comment section. Lakino will get them up on the screen for you. And just a daily reminder, you can catch us on Roku TV, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, live and on demand.
And we will always provide the best for you now. All right, the Cubs. Yeah, you might as well get the Taps music going there, Sid, because
sorry.
yeah. I mean, you might as well have kept it going there because it looks like they lost 2 out of 3 to Colorado. They did win yesterday, 6-2, but I think it's kind of meaningless at this point because it looks like with only 12 games up, it looks like it's kind of like over and done with for the Cubs. 13 games up, I should say, for them, and just not a good show in there. You really needed a sweep against one of the. I know you were in Colorado and you were at Coors Field, but even still, you should have won 2 out of 3, if not sweep. So you couldn't afford to lose a series. So definitely the same problems. The last few months of the season, the bullpen, you don't have Justin Steele, so. And also the offense kind of is up and down. So that's pretty much it for the Cubs and their playoff hopes, I think.
Yeah, even though they did save face with the sweep from being swept yesterday, Colin Hendricks pitched one of his best games since returning from injury a couple months ago. 6 innings pitched, only 1 home run, giving up 7 strikeouts against 3 walks. He did keep the ball low outside that 1 home run he gave up early in the game. And Michael Busch, your rookie first baseman, he had a great series. He had 3 home runs in total for the series, including 2 yesterday. I want to take you back to last Friday's game. They were trailing, I believe, by 3 runs. Michael Busch hits that big game-tying home run, I believe, in the 7th inning or 8th inning, I believe that was. And, of course, that next half inning, the bottom of the 8th, the bullpen gave up a grand slam. And I said to myself, I'm not surprised at the least. I know you're more angry about it than I am, obviously, you being a Cubs fan. But from what I witnessed on Friday, that was kind of the microcosm of moment of the Cubs season. You trail, you fight back, you fight hard to get back into the game, you take the lead, and then you gas it up. I know the Cubs bullpen has been great since the All-Star break, except for these last 10 days or so, but what happened last Friday, it was a microcosm of the whole year. And we talked about this last year, Lakina, the Cubs having an easy schedule in terms of the percentages and the opponents, but it didn't matter last year. It sure as hell doesn't matter this year. Colorado's been a house of horrors for them over the last couple of years, and They did this to themselves, just like last year. They did this to themselves. They cannot blame nobody else but themselves.
Yeah, and Bush's solo home run that gave the Cubs a kind of, like you said, save face and get that win. But yeah, it's kind of all for naught at this point. Now they do play Oakland starting tonight, so we'll see if maybe well the A's they had to be a go-to market. They just had to go cross town, but it's kind of like a wasted opportunity at this point. So yeah, you kind of just wonder, is this kind of going to be the end for them? But we'll see. But yeah, it looks like that's going to be it for them. Now, speaking of Oakland, the Sox won their series against them. Yay! And they have to go 6-6 to avoid the most losses, that record. So they gotta go 6-6 in these last 12. It looks like a lot of the young guys are kind of getting going. I know Benintendi had a couple of big hits against Oakland during that series, but it's just like, okay, 2 in a row. You got what, 35? Okay. But yeah, there's really nothing else you can say at this point. Just 12 more games, 12 more games, 12 more games.
And 9 of them are on the road, so go figure. There's starting tonight in Anaheim against the Angels. But I was there last Saturday. Let me just take this time of real quick to thank the Chicago Sports Bums and the guys and gals from the Section 108. Great job all year, you guys, for the great tailgates. Last Saturday was the last one. I told you I was going to be down there. I was down there last night. Check the evidence via my social media. It was a great time had by all. If I start naming names, I'll get in trouble. But shout out to everybody that was there that I was able to meet and take pictures with. It was a great time. And you were right, Lakina. You said this last Friday. The Sox will win that game. They did, courtesy of Andrew Benintendi with his walk-off home run in the ninth inning there last Saturday night. But as far as the actual 2 games are concerned, great pitching. Sean Burke yesterday making his debut, 5 strikeouts and 2 walks in 5 innings yesterday. Chris Flexen last Saturday, I cannot stand him, but he actually pitched okay. Last Saturday night, Lakita, you couldn't make this up. The White Sox had a 3-0 lead, gave it away. Led 6-3 after the 8th inning. The 9th inning, they gave up 3 runs. And, of course, you had to walk it off in style, courtesy of Mr. Benintendi. So the White Sox have found a way to win 2 ball games. Now, can they keep this momentum with the next 2 weeks? Your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, it's just welcome to, I guess, the old saying here. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, like you said, 9 of the last 12 are going to be on the road, so we don't have to be bothered with the Sox anymore this year for the most part. But they're out west for these next 6 games, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. But yeah, 66, I should say, to avoid that record by the early 60s Mets. I mean, I don't know if they can do it, but we'll see. But yeah, you got okay. You won 2 in a row, yay! But I guess that's not a bad thing, I guess. But we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, let's get to the actual meaningful baseball at this point. The Yankees win 3 out of 4 against the Red Sox, going 5-2 and there to cap off that series. Mr. Aaron Judge with his Major League best 53rd home run, and yeah, now they've got a 3-game lead as we're recording against Baltimore, and the pitching looks looking good too.
Yeah, like I said before last week, the Yankees had to get their issues straightened out via their bullpen. Who's going to be their closer? Will it be Clayton Holmes or will it be somebody else? That's something that get worked out between now and the end of the regular season. We talked about their offense plenty of times this year, and you saw that in that series against the Red Sox. On the flip side for Boston, their offense has been MIA since mid-August, and that's one of the reasons why they're not going to go to the playoffs this year. So, but for the Yankees, you mentioned they got their lead on Baltimore. I know we're going to talk about them in a minute, but it seems to me that outside the bullpen, the Yankees are hitting all strikes right now. No pun intended.
Yeah, so like I said, they really need to get that bullpen situation going there. We'll see if they can. As for the Orioles, the aforementioned Orioles, they lose 2 out of 3 to the Tigers, who now they're suddenly back in the playoff chase.
Go figure.
And I don't think anybody had that earlier this season, but yeah, we'll get to their Detroit's reversal of fortunes in a second. But yeah, Baltimore, Eloy has kind of fallen off a little bit since joining them. It's just like the pitching's been inconsistent, the hitting's been inconsistent. You got to think, Rossman, should say, and Mullins and the rest of that group. I mean, they really need to get it going there if they want to try to. I know Gunnar Henderson had a homer to avoid the sweep, on Saturday against Detroit. But yeah, they really need to get more of that, and they need to get it together quick because I don't think they'll miss the playoffs. But yeah, if they wanted to at least try to get a shot at the East. Yeah, they really need to get it going.
Yeah, I told you that starting pitching has been terrible since the All-Star break. Now you mentioned the offense. Took a big nosedive. You mentioned Adley Rutschman. He had that 2-run home run yesterday to save face for them being shut out once again. They were shut out last Friday. I did get a chance to watch a lot of that game. They almost got no hit. If it wasn't for Gunnar Henderson's triple in the ninth inning, that was last Friday's loss, and where they lost 1-0. Like you said, their starting pitching has to turn it around, and I don't know if it's going to turn around enough for them to carry them into the playoffs. I think their offense will start to pick back up slowly, but it's kind of a little bit of the same vibes as last year. They win 101 games, and then they didn't show up in the playoffs. So it looks like it may be the same script this year, but we'll see what happens.
Could be very interesting there. Cleveland, there's getting kind of interesting in the Central. They split their series against Tampa, and I'm wondering, they do play Minnesota starting tonight, so we'll see if they can put a little bit of distance between themselves and in that Central. I think the Guardians are starting to kind of get it going a little bit. I mean, they had those two rough losses, the first two losses at home. They could have won that Friday game. They didn't. They ended up losing that game, but they did win the last two to kind of like even that series. But I think the Guardians need to kind of get it going. We'll see. But yeah, the Guardians are kind of like inconsistent like the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and partially because their offense has been hot and cold, and their starting pitcher who's been suffering through injuries all year. It's kind of stabilized themselves. They did take advantage of the misfortunes of the Minnesota Twins as they lose 2 out of 3 to the Cincinnati Reds at home. So Cleveland is trying to put distance, a little bit more distance between themselves and the Twins. I still think that Cleveland's going to end up the division winner in the AL Central when it's all said and done.
Going to be interesting in these next couple of weeks in that division. Now we'll see if the AL West is going to be a little bit interesting because my Mariners have won 3 in a row. Yay! Unfortunately, the Astros have now won 4 in a row. They sweep the Angels, and they're taking care of business. We had our buddy Will Kunkel from Fox 26 in Houston. I think just when you thought that maybe Houston, but then they come back and such, Blanco, there was a shutout, 16 shutout for them, and Jason Hayward is making some nice little dividends for the Astros there. He's had a couple hits, including a home run to complete that sweep against the Angels yesterday. So, Houston, looks like they may have control of that AL West.
Yeah, they did what they had to do. Shout out to our guy Brandon Schutz in the chat. We were talking about your Astros. The Houston Astros took care of business over the weekend, winning 3 games against the halfless Anaheim Angels. Your Seattle Mariners, Randy Rosarena, thank you very much for showing up with your bat, but unfortunately, it looks like it's too little too late for that team. I think that best bet to get into the playoffs is the division, but I don't see that happening. They trailed too many teams in that AL wildcard, so Seattle's getting hot, but it's just too little too late. And the Astros were going to be your division winner by the time we talk on Friday. Maybe I'm not going to say they would have clinched it by then, but I think they'll have a little bit more separation by the time we reconvene on Friday.
Speaking of separation, National League, the East, the Phillies have put some distance between both the Mets and the Braves. Both those teams haven't been playing very well, and because the Mets, lose 2 out of 3 to the Phillies, put a little bit of distance between them. So, if you're the Phillies, you want to try to kind of get it going here. I know they want to, JJ Realmuto had a walk-off yesterday, so that kind of will pull a little bit of distance between them and the Mets and the Braves as well. So just when you thought that the Braves were starting to figure it out, you kind of wonder if they're starting to get a little bit exhausted. But those are the Phillies, they're in the driver's seat now.
Yeah, those bats for the Philadelphia Phillies are starting to wake up. Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, you talk about JT Realmuto, their star catcher, his bats starting to wake up as well. But the Atlanta Braves, they win 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers over the weekend. I know they the Dodgers avoid being swept by winning last night. But I want to talk about the messy Mets, as you call them, Lakina. I did watch the first game of that series last Friday night, and they did put a shellacking on those Philadelphia Phillies. Francisco Lindor, yeah, he got caught in a rundown trying to go back to second base. He injured his back, and of course now we're waiting on the word on the MRI if he's going to be out. If he's going to be out, that's going to be huge for the New York Mets. I know Pete Alonso, and he's been inconsistent at times all year. And I know that Jack McNeil is out there, second baseman is out. So the Mets are going through it via the injury bug too. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. And this is why, if you're a Cubs fan, didn't just go back to the Cubs real quick. If you're a Cubs fan, you should be very frustrated because even though Atlanta did take 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers, the Mets lost 2 out of 3 in Philly over the weekend. They played Philadelphia again in the next week or so. And if you would have won that series against Colorado, you'll be 3.5 games back instead of 5.5 games back. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and speaking of, they actually do have one more game later today. I'm talking about the Braves and the Dodgers. So, excuse me. So we'll see if the Dodgers can get a split in that series. And the Padres, they won 2 out of 3. Yeah. So the Padres got won 2 out of 3 against the Giants. They play Houston starting tonight. So if you're a Dodgers fan, you're cheering hard for Houston. You never didn't think you'd be doing that, but they want to put a little bit of distance between themselves in the NL West. But I guess this is a good thing if you're the Dodgers to have play meaningful baseball. I guess so. This will you get ballot testing. You'll go into the playoffs. So we'll see what happens there. Now I want to talk about Detroit real quick. They're 2.5 back in that last wild card. And look, I mean, look, they got 12 games. They've got 12 games up, and we'll see. I mean, they play the Royals starting tonight, and we'll see if they can kind of get it going here. They could very well have a say on who gets into the AL wild card, and it could be them.
Yeah, I think, in my opinion, that this is an elimination series for Detroit. Isn't it a 3-game series, correct?
Yep.
3-game series. Okay, so if you're Detroit, I think 2 out of 3 is the minimum. You must sweep the Kansas City Royals, but realistically, I think they need to take 2 out of 3. The Royals, I've been hot and cold on them all year, but you have Bobby Witt Jr. Of course, you got Salvador Perez, and there some great surprise. He started pitching that's been holding it down all year. So I think this is an elimination series more so for Detroit than Kansas City. Kansas City's in a better position. I think you could say that they're going to the playoffs. I'm talking about the Royals, but this is an elimination series for Detroit. You saw them in their last series against Baltimore, as we talked about. Great pitching, timely hitting. They're going to need that again and then some against the Royals starting tonight.
Should be interesting series there. Now, speaking of Minnesota and Cleveland, as we go into this week's schedule, the Nationals and the Mets hoping to, the Mets are hoping to kind of get back on track. The Dodgers and the Braves, they got one more game later today, so we'll see if the Dodgers can salvage a split there. Detroit and Kansas City, like you said, that's an elimination game, so we'll see if they can, who will be left standing at the end of those 3 games. Oakland, and we talked about the Cubs keeping their faint playoff hopes alive. Philadelphia and Milwaukee, both teams are, they got magic numbers down. So I think they're in single digits now. So we'll see if one of them can at least get close to their respective divisions. Pittsburgh and St. Louis, and Arizona and Colorado. Look, we know Colorado can play spoiler for somebody. So Colorado could play spoiler for Arizona. We'll see. And the White Sox and the Angels, yay. And a big one here, Houston. And I know our buddy Herb Lawrence is going to be looking at this too, because San Diego's his adopted team. So they host Houston. It should be an interesting series there.
Also, too, a big matchup in the AL Central as the Twins and the Guardians will get that series started tonight in Cleveland. Other series of importance that will start tomorrow. San Francisco will travel to Baltimore to take on the Orioles. The Atlanta Braves will travel to Cincinnati to take on the Reds. The LA Dodgers will stay out east. They'll travel to South Beach to take on the Miami Marlins. The Red Sox will take on the Boston Red Sox will take on the Tampa Bay Rays. And another important series. This team will start their West Coast road trip this late in the year, but the New York Yankees will take on Lakina Seattle Mariners starting tomorrow night.
And for all you television streaming folks out there, the second game of that Philadelphia-Milwaukee series will be on TBS tomorrow. And True TV, yes, they're going to be into the baseball thing as well. These last couple of weeks, the second game of the Houston San Diego series will be on True TV, and the last game of the on Thursday, the last game of that Yankees Seattle series will be on Prime Video on Wednesday night. So yeah, so that's interesting television streaming choice for some of these games coming up.
And also, too, one more note. This coming Thursday, no Fox Saturday baseball. It will be on Thursday this week. Most of the country will get Philadelphia at New York as the Phillies take on the Mets. The rest of the country will get Arizona at Milwaukee. Coverage begins this Thursday at 6 p.m. on Fox.
And that is your schedule for this week in MLB.
All right, we are coming right back right here on Second City Sports under the Monday edition. I'm Sid Deslakina. We got to get into week 3 of college football. All of our teams in the state of Illinois did very well, including Northwestern in the Fighting Illini. Did Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffaloes get back on track? We also have an update on the new Chicago Sports Network, and we'll pay tribute to 3 timeless legends for Old School TV Monday. That and a whole lot more as you stay tuned in Stick and Stay right here on Sports Zone Chicago, Second City Sports.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class. These colored pencils, too. These new socks? They can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid Deslakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, SidKid80, that's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow my Kenny McGee on the Twitter, X, and Kenny's going to get in the IG.
If you have any questions or comments for us this is our last segment of the show for today as we go around the world of college football and other sports media news, Old School TV Monday, and more. You can always hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago YouTube. Type in those questions or comments to the comment section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you.
All right, Sid. Some of the games from this past weekend. Kansas State, no trouble with Arizona. UNLV, Barry Odom doing a good job over there at UNLV. They beat Kansas 23-20. They've made a change at quarterback there, so we'll see if they can get it together. Georgia got all they can handle from Kentucky and 13-12. And it's interesting because now, with Texas easily beating UT San Antonio, they've now knocked off Georgia out of the number one ranking for the first time in I think it's 16 years that Texas is now the new number one team in college football.
Yeah, Archie Manning's nephew, if I'm not mistaken. If I have that.
It's Peyton Eli's nephew.
Nephew. Okay, I thought it was
Archie's
Manning.
grandson.
Yeah. So he's been the talk over the college football world this past weekend. You can tell I did not watch the game. I was down on the south side, but reading that, he's been making a big impact with the Texas Longhorns team. And shouts out to him. Will they stay there? I don't know, especially now with this new 12-team format. It's going to be a battle between now at the end of the season. So will Texas stay there? They do have a good chance, but they're playing that tough SEC now since they made the move with Oklahoma over there now. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, he showed a little bit of Jesse. He ran for 67 yards for a touchdown. You didn't see his grandfather and uncles do that back in the day. So he definitely got those the Jets from his
Well,
mother,
Archie was running the other way because they had a bad team and a bad offensive line.
Yeah, that's true. Well, yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, that is true. He did. I just think he did have a little bit. He had a little bit of wheels back in the day too. I've seen some of the clips from both in college at Ole Miss and the pros. But yeah, it wasn't really his fault that unfortunately the Saints weren't really good back then. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, look, Quentin Ewers is going to be out for a bit, so it's his team at least for right now, Arch Manning. So we'll see if he look. Well, we know his pedigree, so I think he's going to do just fine. I like his chances there. Alabama, no trouble with Wisconsin, 42-10. Ole Miss, I guess if you're Lane Kiffin, you're probably fine with no one really paying attention to you. So like, okay, we'll just beat Wake Forest. All right, well yeah, we can do that. We're 2-0 now. All right, cool. So I guess they're fine with that. The Fighting Mike Burmas, as we call them here, of course, the Mizzou Tigers with a great comeback win against Boston College. Instantly, they actually had a third of 59. For one of them, but it didn't really hurt them too much, thankfully. So I guess there were penalties and such, but yeah, that was a weird. But yeah, they were able to overcome that and they won. Same thing with Josh Heupel and Tennessee. I mean, Kent State. Tennessee just hammered Kent State. They actually were gonna shorten the field, and I guess they were gonna accelerate the clock. I guess Kent State didn't want to do that. All right. The ball told, hey, we'll score. We'll pull up 70 on you. And then they did. They put in 71. So, no trouble with the flashes of Kent State there. Oregon now. Those of you who took the under in that Oregon State game, sorry, folks. But yeah, this is the Oregon team that we saw that we were going to get earlier this year. So, yeah, 49-14. No trouble with the Beavers for the Ducks. 62 burger for Miami. 346 yards for Cam Ward. Another 5 touchdowns for him. No trouble there for Ball State. Utah, not too much trouble with Utah State. Same thing with Oklahoma State and Tulsa, 45-10 there.
Let's go locally here in college football. The Fighting Illini, they are 3-0 after taking care of Central Michigan, 30-9. Luke Altmaier, 242 yards and 2 touchdown passes. Josh McRae, the star running back for the Illini, 8 carries for 54 yards. But it was Pat Bryant who had 7 catches, 102 yards, and he caught both touchdown passes from Luke Altmaier. Lakina, I'm not saying I'm getting 2022 vibes for the Illini, but I want to see them handle success against better teams like they did 2 years ago when they went to a bowl game. But things are looking good down there for Brett Billman and crew and down there in Champaign. They started the season 3-0, and I was worried about them having a letdown after they beat Kansas last week, but they took care of business against Central Michigan.
Yeah, they have a tough game coming up over in Nebraska. I'll talk about Nebraska in a second. But yeah, nice showing by Illinois. I mean, look, they looked really good, and and look, I mean, they've had solid showing so far. So again, but they're going to be on the road for the first time this year, so they're going to be at Lincoln. So that place I think is going to be rocking. We'll talk more about that game coming up on Friday. Oklahoma had to pull away late, but no trouble. Oklahoma with Tulane, I should say. Of course, I said it was going to be a little bit of a trouble, but then they did. LSU in South Carolina. Lots of bad calls. Lots of questionable play calling late. I know South Carolina lost their QB. They were limited on what they could do, but even still, they should have won that game against LSU, and they let Brian Kelly off the hook. They did. Sorry.
I was just getting ready to say, is Brian Kelly wiping his forehead off like this?
Probably. I think he's probably took a bath probably too with his because it was very hot down there in Columbia. But it was just I think Shane Bieber, I think he knows it. He knows that they let that game slip away. I know, whatever. But LSU, they were handed that game. I'll leave it there. But Michigan with a nice bounce back win. Beating Arkansas State. Notre Dame. Poor Purdue. I mean, unfortunately, thought that I felt bad for them. Like 60, it was 45. Nothing. I was like, okay, that ain't gonna bother turning that game. But yeah, nice bounce back game from Marcus Freeman and his guys. Now, speaking of Notre Dame, Illinois' next opponent. Nebraska 34-3, no trouble with Northern Iowa. Dylan Raiola threw for 247 yards. He had both a rush, a couple passes, and a TD. He is the first true freshman FBS quarterback to have the last 15 years to complete 70% of his passes in each of his first two games. Joining Baker Mayfield and John O'Corn from 2013, and of course both did in 2013. Marcus Mariota, who is the only one true freshman, or not, I think there's a red shirt, do so in the first three. So, and it turns out that he's actually Pat Mahomes' cousin on his mom's side, oddly enough. So go figure with that one. Another
to the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah, so that's Well, remember he said, look, that's my little cousin. So well, I guess so far looks like the athleticism runs in the family. So, but yeah, nice showing. But the Illinois can have a very hard trying to slow him down on this weekend.
Yeah, and we talked about him last week. Talking about Dylan Raiola against. He had a very good performance against Colorado. He built that up with another solid performance, and we talked about it with our guest Dave Revson for the Big Ten Network late last month about new head coach Matt Rule for the Cornhuskers having this new star freshman quarterback. Well, he's getting it done right now, and Nebraska is showing you why even though they're in the lower half, they're a top 25 team. Now, can they keep this up? We'll see. But right now, so far, so good as they start the year 3-0.
Should be an interesting matchup with them against Illinois. Like I said, we'll talk more about that on Friday. Memphis beat Florida State 20-12. Should there be some panic time down there at Florida State? Keeping up with the theme here, Texas A&M beat Florida 33-20. Graham Mertz, I think he had to pull out of the game early, but they really had no showing there. But both the Florida teams, outside of Miami, of course, but the other Florida teams are not very looking good at the moment. But we'll see what happens there.
Yeah.
Now,
real quick, Lakina. Real quick, Lakina. I don't want to interrupt, but I was watching Inside the NFL last week, and Emmitt Smith was on the program, and this I forgot about his son, but his son is the second string running back at Texas A&M. I know he got a few carries last Saturday, but I forgot he's playing for the Aggies now.
Yes. Yep.
How time flies. Yeah. We're both getting old.
Yeah. I remember Florida was one of the teams that he was considering, but he said he wanted to start his own legacy. So, and good for him. Look, so far so good. And I believe they only have one loss. The only loss was to Notre Dame, but I think they've won both their games since then. They're 2-1, so a solid start for them. Michigan State no trouble with Prairie View. Your buddy PJ Fleck, 27-0 over Nevada. Nice little bounce back from that loss to North Carolina early on. Wazoo got the better of Washington in the Apple Cup. Well, I'm glad they kept the Apple Cup and of course the Civil War with the Oregon State. I'm glad they're still keeping that going, even though they're in different conferences now. But Pitt, another comeback win over West Virginia, 38-34. They were down, I think, like 12 going into the fourth quarter. They had just enough to win that game, and they went down the field, and just a really great show. And another rivalry that I'm glad is back, the Backyard Brawl. This is the Backyard Brawl here, but I'm glad that's still going. So that's really it's good to see. Duke beat UConn, the battle of the hoop squads. North Carolina, no trouble with North Carolina Central. Try to see any other scores of note here. Here
we got a couple.
Yeah, I just gotta find them. IU over UCLA. Colorado and no trouble with Colorado State. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Look, they got the first win. I'm talking about Colorado. Colorado State. They just did not. It seems like they did a lot of talking and did not a lot of preparing. That's probably I think what happened here. But Travis Hunter is probably going to be top 10, top 5 player. So
Agreed. And Shedeur Sanders had a bounce back game, 310 yards passing and 4 touchdown passes. You mentioned Travis Hunter, another 100-yard double-digit catch game, and he also had 2 touchdown receptions as well. Colorado still has to get a running game going. They still got to be more consistent protecting Shedeur Sanders on that offensive line. But this was a big bounce back win for the Buffaloes. And not too many distractions last week from Coach Prime. So, I like him, and I like him very much. But keep the distractions to a minimum. I think you'll be okay.
We'll see if they can keep that up now. Northwestern, no trouble with Eastern Illinois. A nice little bounce back win from that tough loss to
the lake.
Last Friday night. Yeah, so a nice little backdrop there, but a nice showing there as well. Maryland beat Virginia in the battle of old ACC rivals. Of course, now Maryland's in the Big Ten. But a nice showing there. Houston, no trouble with Rice. BYU, no trouble with Wyoming. Cal, they're undefeated. They're 31-10 over San Diego State. And Fresno State shutting out New Mexico State 42-0. And that is your scores for some of the early week 3 in college football. Some great matches coming up for week 4. But we'll get to all that coming up next. But any other thoughts before we move on?
Oh, yeah. A couple of players I want people to keep their eyes on, going back to that Northwestern game. Keep your eye on the running back Cam Porter. He had 15 carries for 77 yards in a touchdown. I really like the way he's playing right now. He has great vision. And the offensive line for the Wildcats, they're doing a great job. And keep your eye on this star wide receiver, A.J. Henning. He had 7 catches for 117 yards in a touchdown. He's going to be a big target for quarterback Jack Lauscher moving forward, who also had 2 touchdown passes in the win last Saturday versus Eastern Illinois.
Yeah, Northwestern gets a little tougher for Northwestern too coming up. So, like I said, we'll talk more about some of these games coming up. But yeah, there's definitely some good ones down the pike this weekend. So, going to be, like I said, we'll get to all that coming up on Friday. Yeah, because that Illinois-Nebraska game is going to be on Friday. And that's going to be on the big Fox network. So we'll get to that game. Preview that game coming up later on this week on Friday. This is see Sports on Sports Zone Chicago with Keenan McGee, Cindy Brown with you. Going to the sports media news real quick before we go into Old School TV Monday. Well, it looks like the new Chicago Sports Network is taking shape. Now, the only problem is that if you have an antenna, you can still you can get it going there. But wherever the old
rabbit ears,
JYS there. This is according to, of course, our buddy Jeff Akris from the Chicago Sun-Times. He posted that that it'll be on, if you got, like I said, if you got rabbit ears, WJYS sub channels, it'll be on 62.2 and 62.3. So, for that, it actually comes to this. It's all but official that DirecTV will be the first big, carrier to, to now will have access to the Chicago Sports Network there. And if you heard his interview with our buddies at the CHGO Blackhawks, Jason Walski, Mario Cristobal, who we gotta get those guys back on.
And
I
Greg
didn't like
Boyson too.
Yeah, great. Oh, great boy. Oh, yeah, we had Greg Boy on. Sorry, Greg. Love you, buddy. Sorry about that. My bad. But yeah, I didn't like what I heard when I heard from him with some of the other carrier services because I have YouTube TV. And he says it might take them a while because they're kind of veering away from the sports stuff, which I think is kind of silly, especially since you have NFL Sunday Ticket. Duh. Hello.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna have to give YouTube TV and Google a piece of my mind. Continue.
Also, too, I may have to give Xfinity/Comcast a piece of my mind too. I know has nothing to do with nothing, but I couldn't really focus on doing my job yesterday. My cable was working, but my internet wasn't. And guess when my internet situation was fixed, Lakina? During the halftime of last night's Bears Texas game.
Oh,
of course, it's working well. Now I'm here to broadcast to you and to everybody else. But with that being said, as we said before, and we'll say it again, I'm sure they know by now, and everybody else should know by now too, that Xfinity/Comcast is the major cable provider of the Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana area. You better work out a deal with them between now and October 1st because you saw what happened to the Marquee Sports Network. They didn't debut in 2020 until the first day of that shortened 2020 COVID season, and they were broadcasting everywhere else in the state of Illinois and parts of Wisconsin and Iowa, but they didn't have Marquee on the Xfinity cable service until middle of the 2020 calendar year, the first day of the season. If the CHSN wants to get it right, you better have a deal in place with Xfinity/Comcast by October 1st because you don't want to end up like what Marquee did, and they dropped the ball big time.
And I know they're probably going to do a direct consumer option, which will help a lot, but I don't think people want to pay another streaming. It's just the other streaming services that are out there. So I think for me, I think this whole, like I said, I have YouTube TV, so they better get something together because I'm not going to be, look, it's bad if I don't have Marquee network, so I have to find other avenues to watch the Cubs games this season. But
you down with VPN?
I do.
Use a VPN.
I had to use a VPN. I've been using VPN all season, and it's a pain, and it's a low cost, but even still, that's not the point. I mean, if you want to get people more eyeballs to your networks, if you want to get people to join your network, I know you don't want to F around with the pricing, but again, you're dealing with folks that have cut the cord and they don't want to have to pay another like $4 or $5 for another streaming service or direct to consumer. So people need options.
Yeah, as we said before, people want and need options, and with them borrowing the signal from WJYS, I know the signal is located on top of the Sears Tower. I'm not calling it Willis Tower. That's a whole nother issue. But with them being on those two over-the-air channels, a lot of Sox and Bulls games will be playing opposite each other or starting within the hour, a half hour of each other. And the true test is going to come next year in April, even though I don't think the Bulls nor the Blackhawks, definitely not the Bulls, will make the playoffs. You're going to have the White Sox starting. And all three of them are going to be on the network in various times during the month, especially during the early month of April. Will you have the Sox or one of the teams on the main quote unquote cable channel and those other two teams on the over the air channel? Hope they figure that out soon.
Well, we got a couple more weeks to figure it out. So I mean, we need to kind of get it going here, especially if they want to get as many people to access to these Bulls and Hawks and Sox games as possible because you're not going to have, people are going to be, it's bad that Blackhawks games, you're going to be losing 2 Blackhawks games because of the transition, from, NBC Sports Chicago to the CHSN. So, you better figure this out beforehand. So we'll see. I mean, like I said, they got 2 weeks to figure it out. So they better figure out something. So,
speaking of those first 2 preseason games, it will be streamed on the Blackhawks website, and I assume on the Blackhawks YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, I think it will, but I think they broke the news on CHGO Blackhawks that they are going to stream those games on their website.
The preseason games,
and the preseason games on the YouTube channel. I think it's going to be also on the YouTube channel as well. So you won't miss any Blackhawks games there. So that's a little bit of consolation there too. But even still, I mean, this transition should have been handled a little bit better. But again, that's just me. So we'll see what happens there. But any other sports media news before we talk some WNBA real quick?
No, go ahead and drop your WNBA nugget.
Well, unfortunately for the Sky, of course, no Angel Reese. They've lost their last three, and now they're on the outside looking in, not because of the Dream, but because of the Mystics. Mystics have won, I think, like 6 of their last 7, and now they're in the driver's seat with the playoffs right now. So they beat the Mystics. I'm talking about the Mystics beat the Sky pretty handily, and that's kind of started a downward spiral. They lost to the Mercury yesterday, and Diana Taurasi, and them. They got 2 more games left. They got the Dream, of course. The game may not mean anything tomorrow, and the Sun to finish off the season. But yeah, a good showing. But yeah, they need more 3-point shooting, and of course, Reese is out for the year, so I think that's paying a big price for that. But again, they're kind of right there. But I also want to give a shout out to Miss AJ Wilson, who becomes the first WNBA player to ever pass 1,000 points. She had her parents there, which was really cool. A nice little moment there. They stopped there, and it looks like the Aces are starting to get going. And I think Becky Hammond and I think they like the fact that no one's really talking about them. So they're kind of like sneaking along here. They're like kind of like in the 5th position now. They're in the 4th position. They've been playing very well. Everyone's getting back. They've won 3 in a row. So they looked really. They're looking good. They're getting good at the right time.
I think if you're WNBA, I don't think you mentioned them yet. You want the Indiana Fever in the playoffs because of Caitlin Clark. And the WNBA has been doing well in ratings this year, mostly due to her and, of course, Angel Reese second before she got injured. So should the Indiana Fever make the playoffs, I think it's going to bring that much more attention to your sport.
Yeah, get people to actually care about the sport. You're outside of the NFL. They've actually been doing okay. Yeah, they've averaging like about a million, 1.3, 1.4, somewhere around there. So we'll see if that happens. I think the Fever are already in the playoffs. I said it last week. They're already in the playoffs. They already put the playoff spot. They're in the 6th spot, so they're good there. But yeah, it looks like the Sky is going to be on the outside looking in. Of course, unfortunately with the Reese injury. So yeah. Nice. But again, again, if it ends up being like the last couple of games for this season for the Sky, look, just get some more 3-point shooting. I mean, it's really all you can. We say that was going to be a problem all season long, and it has been the problem. So you got Teaspoon, you got a good nucleus, but you need a 3-point shooter. We'll see what happens. That also want to give a shout out to John Raw, who won the Live Golf Tournament that was here in Chicago over the weekend, and he gets a nice little $18 million bonus because he won the points title. So he gets to chill for a little bit before going into that. Should help ease the pain of losing that gold medal. But nice showing by him on the tournament here in Chicago.
Yeah, congrats to him as well. Any other nuggets before we kick it ended with Old School TV Monday?
No, I'm good.
All right. You listen to Second City Sports on Chicago. Sid Lakina here with you, wrapping up our Monday edition of the program. Of course, we usually like to end our Monday shows on a good note, but since yours truly was out for the last week and a half, this is a special edition of Old School TV Monday. We lost 3 legends due to their passing, timeless legends, and of course, I'm referring to Mr. James Earl Jones, soul singer Frankie Beverly, and of course, yesterday we lost Tito Jackson of the famous Jackson 5 music group. Of course, he was the older brother of Michael Jackson. I'll give my thoughts, and I'll let Lakina close out with her thoughts. First to James Earl Jones. What a great actor. A great speaker. He was a great orator who really spoke with elegance, and he commanded respect. And he was only one of the few performers to achieve Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony Award. He was an all-around versatile entertainer. Of course, us being a child of the 80s, I remember him in movies such as The Sandlot and, of course, Coming to America. And I forgot about this, Lakina. We talked about Marvin Gaye's legendary performance at the 1983 NBA All-Star Game with the national anthem in Los Angeles a year before he died. But, of course, we remember the 1993 MLB Baseball All-Star Game, of course, with John Krug, then of Philadelphia. He struck out Randy Johnson struck him out. But I definitely forgot about this. I saw this last week on Instagram. He did a narration of the Star Spangled Banner. I'm not going to sit here and be silly about this, Lakina. It got me fired up. I forgot that he did that before the game. It was very well done. He had that choir singing in the background out there on the pitcher's mound. It was very a wonderful moment and a beautiful moment to watch. I forgot that he did that.
Yeah, people forget that he's a pretty look. He has a Tony, so yeah, of course, like you
Hmm.
said, one of the few very few performers that have an EGOT to their resume, and he did a little bit of everything. I mean, of course, we know that the voice of Darth Vader, Field of
Star
Dreams, of
Wars. Yep.
course, yep, and Field of Dreams, and of course,
Hmm.
the voice of Mufasa in the Lion King
Hmm.
movies, and it was just like one of those things where he was so versatile. Of course, for people who don't know, after he did this theater stint, he actually was on as the Royal Turns for a couple of years, taking over a role there. So that's how I kind of started, on screen. Of course, yes, for the various movie roles and voiceover roles that he did, and of course, this is CNN. Of course, that
Yes.
started that whole when CNN was actually worth watching back then. I'll leave it there, but yeah, a really great but he worked right up until he couldn't do it anymore. And 93 years young, just a really great entertainer all around, and just a really good guy, and very no nonsense, but a very a great personality as well. And every seeing all the tributes from the various folks who he's co-starred with, I know Kevin Costner posted a nice tribute. So did Mark Hamill, of course, Luke Skywalker himself. So I know he stayed in touch for a lot of years after the Star Wars films finished filming. But yeah, just a really great entertainer and a great guy to boot.
Yes, so James Earl Jones, his legacy will not be forgotten. Of course, famous soul singer also who passed away last week was Frankie Beverly. He was born Howard Beverly in December of 1946. He was born in the city of Philadelphia. Of course, Marvin Gaye, as we mentioned earlier, got Frankie Beverly his first record deal along with his band Maze, Maze. Lakina, I don't know about you, but this episode is on YouTube. It's been on YouTube for a while, but I watched his first appearance of the whole episode on Soul Train on YouTube
Mm-hmm.
over the weekend. Of course, he did one of the songs he called was "Love and Magic." That is a very underrated song. It's a beautiful song. That was the first time he performed that song. It was his first appearance on Soul Train back in 1977, October 1977. I watched that over the weekend. Of course, as I mentioned before, we're children, 80s babies, and the first song that I heard, it was a new station at the time called V103. Of course, my late mother would listen to that station. I didn't at that time. I was listening to B96 and WGCI at the time. And one of the first songs I heard from this Frankie Beverly guy at the time was Silky Soul Singer. Of course, if you know the history of that song from 1989, it was him paying tribute to Marvin Gaye. And he did another song at that time called, this is a Steppers classic called I Can't Get Over You, which is a very beautiful song at that time. And of course, growing up, because both you can relate to this too, Lakina. Our parents played that music, especially on Saturdays. Cleaning up the house and going around doing various errands and activities and stuff. And try not to live my life with too many regrets. But do you remember when Frankie Beverly and Maze performed at the Taste of Chicago about a little bit over
Yes,
a decade ago?
yes,
I
I
had a
remember
chance
that.
to go to that concert, but I couldn't because I'm not a big crowd guy with a whole
Hmm.
lot of people. I know. Well, so you go to a lot of sporting events, you deal with big crowds, but concerts are different, as you well know. And so
Hmm.
and so I had a chance to go, but I was like, I don't want to be stuck in there with too many people. But Frankie Beverly had his trademark with white T-shirt, white ball cap, and white
Hmm.
pants. He encouraged everybody, all the people in the audience to wear white because it showed unity with his also with his laid back style. I really enjoyed his music throughout the years ago. He's been sampled plenty of times in hip hop, especially with that
Hmm.
1991 hit, "Your Mom's in Our Business." Before I
Hmm.
let go, of course, that's one of Frankie Beverly's famous songs. You're gonna hear that in every barbecue, every birthday party, every backyard party, or just when you're just hanging out with your friends. You're definitely gonna hear that song. I know Beyonce covered that song a few years ago, and Frankie Beverly reached out to her and said that he was very proud of her for doing it. I know Mary J. Blige, the queen of remaking songs, she did that too. Me personally, I don't like that version, but that's just my opinion. But Frankie Beverly Mays did some timeless music, and it'll live on forever. I just want to pay my respects to Frankie Beverly as well.
Yeah, very underrated singer songwriter. And before I let go, yeah, that's probably one of the bigger Main Street hits. And also, same things back in stride. You hear that played a
Yes.
lot. in not just in R&B, but I've seen a lot of I don't want to say like white weddings, but you see white people jam to that song as well, dance try to dance to it. So yeah, I mean he had like nice little like up tempo, also do some little like soul softer songs, but I think like those three, I think We Are One is another one that's a big mainstream hit as
Yes.
well. So it was a tough week for R&B music, and a very underrated singer songwriter and producer too. So yeah, a lot of his songs have been sampled at various points. So rest in peace to him. I know that was a tough loss because they still haven't said a cause of death. So I hope it doesn't get too weird that fighting over his estate and such with his kids.
Mhm.
But again, we'll leave that alone. But yeah, but it was another tough R&B for people in music. But also too, we get the news late last night. I saw it late last night that T.O. Jackson, of course, one of the original members of the Jackson 5, a singer-songwriter, himself passed away. I guess they're saying it's a heart attack. They're not, they haven't really made it official, but it sounds like, from one of their longtime friends, it was a heart attack. And of course, he always had a guitar in his hand. He was probably one of the musicians from that Jackson 5 group. Of course, Michael did the singing, and he kind of did the jam as well. And just a really kind of like, I know the Jackson has been through a lot over the years. Of course, they lost Michael and they lost their dad. I know they weren't on good terms with their dad, but Tito was one of those very underrated because he did a lot of producing. He did a lot of the especially from their later album. We'll talk about the Jackson 5's later albums, of course, the Jacksons, when they went on tour in the 80s. They had a couple of hits there. Torture, that's probably one of their better.
Love that song. Yes.
Without a non Michael Jackson that wasn't, but I think he did sing background a little bit in that song. But yeah, just an original member and just only 70 years old, which is not that old. Yeah, so that's kind of scary to hear about his death.
Yeah, a couple of the nuggets too, looking regarding Tito Jackson. I think he had a song released prior to COVID. I forgot the name of that song was. If you know what I'm talking about, he released a song prior to COVID, and he started a group with his three sons called 3T, and they're and 3T, and they were starting to make waves throughout the music industry as well. So he's kind of been that unsung hero, definitely behind the scenes. I know everybody wants to get in front of the camera, thinking, "Oh, this is where you be singing and all that stuff," but the real power is behind the scenes. What you mentioned with the producing and the songwriting, those are the people that make the real money. If you really want to know what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I forgot that song you're talking about. That he
You know what I'm
released.
talking about, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think he also released a medley. They released a medley of original Jackson 5 songs, prior to COVID too, or right after everything started dying out. But I can't get the name of the song though. Shoot, but it'll probably come to me when we get off the air because that's what usually happens. But yeah, I mean, I think a very underrated singer, songwriter, producer, and I think he kind of. Again, that was their father. I mean, he kind of helped, them, with kind of the ins and outs. I think he wanted to get involved with the ins and outs of the music business because, like you said, you make a lot of nice money with the singing, but it's really the producing and the writing, especially that really gets you the recognition, the money. So, to his credit, I mean, he was able to, like you said, 3T, had a couple of big hits in the mid '90s. They were kind of getting ready to be able to come back, and I know they released a really nice statement in dedication with their dad. So, yeah, tough loss for the Jackson family.
Real quick, Lakina, I know we ran up against it, but you mentioned Michael Jackson's death. I believe, if my math is correct, this past June was the 15th anniversary of his death. Real quick, where were you when you found out the news that he passed away? Because I remember it was on a Friday in June. Where were you when you found out the news that Michael Jackson passed away?
I was actually listening to sports radio. I believe I was listening to I think it was Boyers and Bernstein back then, the last couple of years of that show on the Score. And I think I forgot who was that broke the news, but they said, "Oh, Michael Jackson." Oh, well, wait a minute. I can't, I think it was Bernstein that said, wait, Michael Jackson passed away? I think he said it just like that. And I guess there was still some news about it. And I guess, I think Joe Jackson's dad said that he wasn't in good shape. Of course, we got the news a couple hours later that he had passed. So, yeah, it was definitely one of those. And an hour after that, we found that Farrah Fawcett passed away around that same time. So, yeah, that was a tough moment for the entertainment industry that day.
Yeah, real quick. I was driving to work. Of course, Michael Basin from Chicago. He had his radio show. It was national. Of course,
Oh,
he
I
brought
remember
on
that.
George Wilborn, who's also from
Yes,
Chicago.
I remember that.
I remember they were in Jamaica for Michael Basin's his annual vacation, and he brought listeners onto Jamaica, and they broke the news. And I remember at the same time, the now late great Dub Banks had his national radio show that was airing on V103 at the same time. I said, I bet you, Dub Banks, they don't know about this yet. I was flipping back and forth. I was like, I bet you Dub Banks will have something before he goes off the air. And so when Michael Basin went to commercial, he announced that Michael Jackson passed away. I flipped over to V103, and of course they played the song "You Are Not Alone," of course produced by R. Kelly. And that was on Michael Jackson's, I believe, History album back in the mid '90s. And of course, after they played that song, if you know Dub Banks, if you listen to him over years, there was certain Michael Jackson songs he played, but this one he rarely played. And of course, after the song, of course, Dub Banks came back with Dee Dee McGuire, and they announced that Michael Jackson passed away. I was just in total shock. And like you say, it was one of the toughest days in entertainment history, one of the toughest days in my life. Of course, we're all Michael Jackson fans. And of course, I still haven't listened to this song yet. I don't know if I ever will. But remember, of course, he did this song with his brothers, bringing it back to Tito. Never Can Say Goodbye.
Yeah.
I couldn't listen to that song. I still can't listen to that song. Maybe I will someday, but that's kind of how I felt when I heard that Michael Jackson passed away. You know that it happened, but just something that you will not accept, and that's kind of where I was at that time.
Understandable, and I think a lot of people still feel that way. People feel that way about Kobe too. To this Kobe Bryant to this day, and I think various other artists, even Tupac. Even people that still say that Tupac's still alive somewhere. Say they with Biggie. So it's not not the first time that we've heard that kind of thing. But yeah, for Old School TV Monday, a special edition, we rest in peace to legends James Earl Jones, Frankie Beverly, and Tito Jackson. Our thoughts and prayers go out to their families. And also to all their fans. So, listen to some Frankie Beverly and the Maze, and some Jackson 5 and the Jacksons. And even if you want to, pick any movie that James Earl Jones, either voice or on screen, you can find that as well.
Yeah, you can find them plenty everywhere.
Sure, they're going to be streaming too, I'm sure. All the movies he's done in various forms. So, so it should be interesting to see what happens there. But with that said, you can follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter, X, and Keenan McGee on the IG.
You can follow yours Shirley Sydney Brown on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80. Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in the living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in the living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
Of course, you get Sports Zone Chicago anytime, anywhere on Roku TV. If you have the Roku TV app, on whatever, get your apps, you type in Sports Zone Chicago. You can catch replays of our show, Sean and Maya, the Smoke Fellas, What's Up Cousin, a whole lot more. Of course, you get Sports Zone Chicago anytime, anywhere on Roku TV.
And we will provide. Real quick, Lakina, regarding the White Sox over the weekend, PA announcer Gene Honda had the weekend off. And good friend of the show, Miss Alyssa Bergamini, who's the in-game host for the Chicago White Sox, and she's also a broadcaster for the Chicago Bulls. She filled in for Gene Honda over the PA system over the weekend. She did an outstanding job. And she became the first woman to do a PA for an MLB team. So Alyssa Bergamini, friend of the show, she did a heck of a job over the weekend of doing the PA announcements for the Chicago White Sox.
Yeah, I think she brought a little bit of luck too. I think they won, 2 out of 3 against Oakland.
Yes.
So I think she might have brought a little bit of luck there. So, but yeah, she did a really great job. I saw the replays of the game. She did an outstanding job with that. So congrats to her. And of course, she also just got engaged a couple weeks ago.
Yes, she did.
Nice last couple of weeks for Miss Alyssa. So we gotta get her back on the show when she's not too, but she's so busy. But we'll see if we can try to get her on soon. But of course, if you catch these last, you catch the White Sox, of course, they're out west, playing Anaheim if you want to watch it. But yeah, so enjoy the baseball, enjoy the last couple weeks of last couple games of WNBA, and so much more. So for Sid, I'm the Kansas City Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago, and we'll see you guys on Friday.
Go Bears, holla!